In this screencast, we are going to talk about rational numbers on a number line. You'll see that rational numbers looks like it relates to positive and negative numbers. So we're going to look at how you would place those on a number line. Let's go ahead and start off by introducing what a rational number is. A rational number can include whole numbers, fractions, and decimals. So some examples could be 0, 2, -2, 1/2, 0.7, -0.2, -1 1/2, etc. So you'll see that you have both positive and negative numbers that are rational numbers. You also have whole numbers, fractions, and decimals. Some key vocabulary for this lesson includes benchmark, which we've talked about before. Benchmark is a reference number that can be used to estimate the size of other numbers. Some examples of those could be 0, 1/2, 1, 1 1/2, and 2. These also apply for negatives, so you might have -1/2, -1, -1 1/2, and -2 could also be considered benchmarks for numbers, especially negative numbers in that case. We also have the word improper fraction, which is when a fraction where the numerator is bigger than the denominator. So an example of that might look like -4/1, or -5/2, or 6/5. So you'll notice that the numerators in all of these examples are larger than the denominators. Remember, top number, bottom number. And then finally we have mixed number, which is a number written with both a whole number and a fraction. An example of this might be such as 1 1/2, 1 4/5, -3 1/3, -10 2/3, and so on. So mixed numbers include a whole number and a fraction. So let's go ahead and take a look at the number line that we have on the screen. We have some directions here. It says place the following rational numbers on the number line. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at these numbers. You'll notice we have some mixed numbers as well as just some regular fractions, and we also have some positive and negative numbers. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at what my fractions are. Most of my fractions are written using the denominator of 4, but my number line is written out in just whole numbers. So instead of just guessing where my fractions would be placed, the first thing that I want to do is I want to split my number line so that it matches what my fractions are telling me. Because my fractions are out of 4, I want to make sure that I have 4 parts in between each whole number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through on my number line, and I'm going to split each part into 4 parts. So I'm just going to draw 3 lines in between those 3 numbers, and I'm going to try and make them as equal as possible so that they look pretty well spread out. And now you'll see that I have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, or 1 whole. So I'm going to go ahead and split my number line. So you'll see that I've split every single section or every single set of whole numbers into 4 equal parts. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and place the fractions or mixed numbers onto my number line. I'm going to go ahead and start with 3 1/4. When I'm looking at 3 1/4, I want to look at the whole number first, and I want to find the 3 on my number line. Here's 3. Because I'm looking at positives, I'm going to look to the right. So because this is split into fourths, my 3 1/4 would go right here on my number line. Okay, so that's 3 1/4. I'm going to try and write that as neatly as possible. Next number is 2 3/4. So I'm going to go over to my whole number 2, and then I'm going to count over. So if this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. So here would be my 2 3/4. Then I have 1 1/2. 1 1/2 can also be written as 1 2/4. So I'm going to go ahead and find my 1, and then I'm going to find my either halfway point or go over 2/4, and right here would be where my 1 1/2 would be located. Finally, I'm going to look at some of my just fractional parts. So I have 3/4 and 1/4. Well, 1/4 would be right after 0 because it's 1/4 away, it's closest to 0. And then my 3/4 would be 3 lines over. So right here would be 3/4, and that's where I would put my dot for 3/4. Let's go ahead and move into my negative fractions. So I have negative 1/4. Negative 1/4 is not bigger or does not have a negative whole number 1 in front of it. So I need to stay this way of my negative 1. Remember, when you're going from 0 to negative numbers, you're looking at this, or you're going to the left on the number line. So negative 1/4 would fall one line over to the left of 0. So that would be my negative 1/4. If I'm looking for negative 3/4, that would fall 3 spaces over from 0. So that would be my negative 3/4. Now I have negative 1 and 3/4. So now I'm going to be to the left of negative 1, and I'm going to look for 3/4. So I need to go negative 1 and then count over 3 lines, and you'll see that that would get me to negative 1 and 3/4. Make sure that when you're placing your numbers on the number line that it makes sense. And finally, negative 2 and 1/4, going over to negative 2 and going over one space past negative 2. So I'm at negative 2 and 1/4. And that would be how you would place those numbers on the number line. So let's go ahead and take a look at another example. And what I would like you guys to do right now is I want you to go through and try and place these fractions. And in this case, you'll see that we have some improper fractions as well. So go ahead and try and place those on the number line, and then we're going to walk through some of them to make sure that we're on the right track. Remember that you need to split your number line into whatever the denominator is telling you. So in this case, we're looking at thirds. So you want to split each section into thirds. So that means you're just going to draw 2 lines in between each set of whole numbers. So I'll get you started with that. Go ahead and check your answers with mine. You'll see that some of these, such as 3/3, matches up with 1 whole, because 3/3, 3 divided by 3 is 1. Same thing with 2, 6/3, or 6 divided by 3 is 2. If you take a look at the left-hand side of 0, where your negatives are, you'll see that we didn't have quite as many negative numbers to place. However, still, once you split your number line up, you can kind of just count over to make sure that you're at the right point on the number line. Rational numbers are not hard to place on a number line. Just make sure that you're thinking about where the number falls. Use some of your benchmarks to figure out what the fraction or what the mixed number or what the improper fraction is closest to, and then correctly place them in between your 2 whole numbers. So hopefully this video helps you understand how to place rational numbers on a number line.